Hello, everyone. I am Joe Lizzo Oskis. And we're here to open for Al Gore. So let's get it started. Let's start by talking about perhaps some inconvenient truths about technical leadership, if you will. And yeah, it's good, right? And to start, I was hoping you guys could tell us a little bit about your roles as technical leaders.
Yeah, maybe I'll start. Joe Korngiebel, CTO Workday, and really my role is to guide and shepherd technology and innovation in an era that is just reigning with innovation. And I see it as a very human job more than anything, to really embrace what people do in the enterprise, because at the end of the day, people are our most important asset. And despite the fact of what's happening and AI is going to take over the world, and we invest a ton in AI, ML, deep learning, people are still the center of the universe for us in our company.
Okay, and I'm Rebecca Parsons, CTO of ThoughtWorks. The CTO of a services company is a little bit different because we don't have one particular product. We are doing things for many different organizations, but it's still a people problem. We need to create an environment where our people can continue to learn new technology. And getting more so, we need to make sure that people feel safe to experiment, to innovate, and so my role is really to establish that internal environment so that the rest of the technical workforce can really thrive and be successful.
So Rebecca, I want to start with something that you once said, which is that if we measure success by the amount of experiments that succeed, we'll be adverse to taking risks. But that instead, we should actually be celebrating when experiments fail as technical leaders.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that and that philosophy?
Well, I'm often asked, how do you measure the success of an innovation program? Yeah. And if you focus it only on innovation ideas that have gone into production, you're probably not going to encourage the risk-taking that's necessary to find a truly creative new idea. And so we need to make sure we figure out how to celebrate the failures that were sensible failures. And this is also where it gets complicated. Some ideas are just bad ideas. And we don't want to celebrate, wasting a lot of money on a bad idea. But very often, ideas have a kernel. There's something that caused that person to think this was a great idea. And even if it doesn't work out, you've learned something. You've learned whatever assumption made you think it was going to actually work. That assumption is clearly false. And you can learn something and perhaps adapt the idea to take advantage of what you have learned. But it takes risk-taking to really find that great new idea. And if you're never taking risks, someone else is going to take them and they're going to beat you.
But how do you practically set it up so that you are making the investments in the right bad ideas and not just, throwing all your effort at any idea that comes your way?
Everybody gets it wrong sometimes, but you want to take a look at, first, the person. I am far more willing to back the idea of a person who's truly passionate, who understands the complete scope of the problem, not just is focused on, this is cool tech. Well, why would anybody buy it? But it's cool tech. Well, that's not enough. So someone who has a broad understanding of what the market might look like, how we might make money on it, why they think this is a good investment to make. Why do they think Ruby on Rails is going to become popular when it became popular? Why is this ready for large-scale enterprises as opposed to just mom-and-pop shops? And so it's having those conversations, asking the questions, and looking for someone who is really so passionate about their idea, they're going to be pounding on your desk and they're going to be sitting outside your cubicle, and they're going to come to you and say, have you decided yet? Have you decided yet? So you look for the passion, and you look for that breadth of understanding of the problem. And sometimes you get it wrong.
No, I agree. Celebrate the human spirit. Things will fail. I think we celebrate failure maybe too much in the Silicon Valley. But if you celebrate the human spirit aspect of that, and you celebrate what the energy that went into that idea, because to be honest, you constantly have to disrupt yourself. If you're going to be successful today, you constantly have to have that risk-taking and that sense of urgency to what you're doing.
And how do you make that case to your CEO who might be like, what are you guys doing?
You look at examples that have just taken off. A great example, we had a team that wanted to do innovation in a new and interesting way. And what we did was we wanted to make our software more accessible for the world, regardless of where your visual impairments, motor impairments, make your software available for everyone. So they took the initiative to do that. And the way they did that was bringing one of our customers in that was blind and watch them use the software. And you instantly have the empathy and emotion to innovate. And that, from an executive level, drives everything. Because then you're bought in. You realize that they are out to make a difference in your software and continue to disrupt yourself to make our customers' lives better. Those kind of innovations sell to any audience, including the executive audience.
So you mentioned a second ago the idea of disrupting yourself. But there's a pretty big difference between being a startup CTO and an enterprise scale CTO. So what are the adjustments that you need to make in your approach when you do get big? Is it just acting like a startup CTO all the time?
No, I started with Workday in the early days when we were just a handful of us with a crazy idea and the option to disrupt the enterprise in a big way or just, go by the way of the dinosaur. And today we're at scale. 35% of the Fortune 500 now use our software. And I don't see it as any different. I still lead with, it's a soft an acronym, but we love acronyms in the technology space, TLC. Trust, listen, and adapt for change. Trust your employees like never before, because that gives them that freedom that Rebecca said to take risks. I do little things, and I do the same. The most valuable thing you have is your time. And so we tell our kids, put down your phones. We try to sit down at a restaurant, give your employees your time. Write a personal note if you have to write a personal note to trust them, and they feel that sense that they can take risks. Listen. We have two of these and one of these for a reason. Listen. You learn more from your employees, and most importantly, you learn more from your customers than anything else you can possibly do to continue to grow your business, whether it was the early startup days or whether it's now at scale. And the last is change. Build your organization for change. Don't be afraid to change. We recently took our head of design and made them head of front-end development. What? That's crazy, right? But no, those type of changes make you honest. It empowers your employees to learn new things and to keep their skills fresh. So a little TLC goes a long way.
That's great advice. And Rebecca, you recently came out with a book that's been getting a lot of buzz, Building Evolutionary Architecture.
Yes.
And the idea, and forgive me if I'm bastardizing at all, but is that things are changing so rapidly, we can't really anticipate what the future holds. So if that's the case, how do we future-proof ourselves?
By preparing to be disrupted. You can't anticipate where the change is going to come from, and that's what we used to try to do. We used to talk about configurable systems, and I'll put a switch in here, or I'll put a parameter in there, and it will be configurable. But that assumes that you know where the change is coming from, and we can't know that. We can't know that in today's world. How many of you know what JavaScript framework you will be using in 2 years? You don't, because it hasn't been written yet, most likely. And so we have to be able to adapt to changes that we can't predict, and you do that by making sure things are easy to understand and as easy to change as possible. And they're standard architectural principles that actually apply in organizations as well. You want to make sure that people understand where the white space is, and understand how to get things done, and understand how to communicate, and understand what's important. And that's really what evolutionary architecture is all about, is we want evolvability to be one of those abilities. Not adaptability, because that implies you predicted it, but evolvability, because that means you're responding to whatever change is happening in the environment in the best possible way.
And are there some concrete ways you can set up your organization to do this?
A lot of it goes back to the environment that you create. You have to ensure that people feel safe to experiment, to learn, to call out problems. Because very often when these changes start to happen, it's because somebody's noticed this isn't working as well as it used to. And you have to make sure people feel empowered to come in and say, I think we have to change our organization because where this used to be this nice, smooth communication path, now we've got memos going this way and meetings going that way, and nobody's talking to each other anymore. So let's think about changing our organization. So a lot of it is making sure that the signals that it's time to change can actually get broadcast and heard.
Maybe I'd add to that is, as leaders, it's our responsibility to invest in your people. You have to constantly invest in your people. The skills gap is growing. And so if we're not, as leaders, showing that by example, by investing in our people, we're not there. And that's how you build leadership that is not brittle and more evolutionary for change. So the tools that are out there, embrace them. Embrace the technology shift that's happening. Your people will see that and they'll pay it forward. And that pay it forward by giving it back is a really important leadership step.
So next I want to talk a little bit about listening to customers and listening to users and the balance that you have to strike when you want to anticipate what's coming next, what people are going to want. How much do you listen to what they want right now?
For me, it's a left brain, right brain concept. As a CTO, I still hold design in my arsenal because I think it's so important to balance the cool innovation that's happening in the world and that crazy left brain stuff that's going on in the world today. Together with the empathy and the right brain side of it. When we do that, we make technology that matters. Technology without design is useless because we can't use it. And so if we're doing that, we're smart. So we vet everything through a design process. We vet everything with our customers. Customer-driven innovation is led by design thinking, going through the process, vetting it out. When we do that, we listen to our customers in a better level by doing workshops with them, guiding them through design partnerships, walking through the process so when the left brain kicks in and we get into development mode and we understand what JavaScript framework and where we go with that, we're grounded with our customers' expectations to not just deliver faster horses, but deliver true innovation for the customer.
Do you structure your team to facilitate that? Like say having some product managers that are obsessed with what the customers want, and then more technical folks who can go into that left brain area?
All the way down to hackathons. We have a hackathon that new college graduates that come into our company do, and they immediately paired up with designers, product managers, developers to pitch crazy ideas to executive management. So if you take it at that foundational incubation step, it becomes part of your DNA. Couldn't emphasize more how important it is to get collaboration amongst your teams to deliver that.
All right, we've only got a few minutes left, so I want to go into a little bit of a rapid fire round. How do you go about building your teams?
You have to look at the personalities. Many people say they went into technology because they didn't like people very much, but unfortunately this is a people business. And so you have to look at the skills. But to me it's very important to bring a broad range of perspectives, of intellectual traditions, bring that diverse thinking style so that you can get lots of different ideas out, and that wonderful process that happens where somebody tosses out an idea and somebody adds to it and then somebody tweaks it a little bit, and so you want to get teams that will collaborate, will work together, they do gel personally, but also you want to bring in those diverse ways of thinking to get the most creative solution.
Totally agree. Love what you do what you love, find people's passions and bring them together. That's very well said.
How important is it for you to still get your hands dirty in code?
I still contribute to hackathons here and there. The team says, Joe, you should step away a little bit from the code, which is probably wise.
Over there?
Yes.
But it's important. With everything going on these days, you have to stay a little bit dirty to stay current. Whatever's happening, whether it's the AI, ML world, front-end JavaScript, the back-end and persistence and scale, staying current is important, but trusting people could run on it is even more important. And so I step away when we get to production level code and leave it in the hands of the experts.
Yeah, most of our clients are very grateful of the fact that I haven't committed production code in a long time. But I still try to stay very involved in the systems, know how to read it, know how to understand it, and then also be able to communicate why we think some of these things are so interesting and how that's going to help their business. So I try to stay dirty enough so that I can have those real conversations. These are the trade-offs, because technology is not neutral, and no technology is perfect. And if you can't really talk about why something isn't right, you're not going to be credible.
One CTO you admire?
Oh.
On the spot. Clock is literally counting down.
Werner Vogels does a great job at Amazon. Werner keeps on the top, latest and greatest with what's happening with trends and pushes his team in the right direction. Definitely admire what's going on with Amazon, what they're doing and how they're pushing innovation. Keep people at the center of everything you do. Invest in your people, and that's the really secret sauce to the future.
Mm. Oh boy, that's tough. I don't want to offend anybody. I think the people who are now running Microsoft are looking at the world in a different way and are bringing a new way of thinking, and I think that's quite inspirational.
Fantastic. Well, Rebecca, Joe, we're out of time, but thank you for being here today. Thank you to all of you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you've got Patty and then Al Gore coming.